Riddance of Inversion. Inversion means upside down. Perversion. Inverted. Contrary to reality. To believe things as they seem to be. The impermanent to be permanent. The apparent ego to be real. The noun, vipariyasa, is used of the overthrowing of a wagon. The translation by perverted views. Wrong notion, error. What can upset? Or upside down views. In any case. The noun, vipariyasa, means mistakes. Reversals of the truth. And, in consequence, overthrowers of inward calm. The scriptures identify the noun, vipariyasa, with unwise attention, the root of all unwholesome dharmas, and with ignorance, delusion, and false appearance. According to Buddhism, as long as our thoughts are perverted by perverted views, we will never transcend this world of birth and death. On the contrary, understanding of the real wisdom is unperverted. For real wisdom has for its object the unperverted own being of Dharma. Devout Buddhists must try to cultivate, to attain an unperverted understanding, for the unperverted understanding also means right understanding of the truth. Inversions have many different kinds. The first type is upside down, or inverted views, seeing things as they seem, not as they are. The impermanent as permanent, misery as joy, non-ego as ego, and impurity as purity. The second type is heretics believe in pleasure. This is one of the 8 upside-down views, which belongs to the 4 upside-down views. For ordinary people. The third type is heretics believe in personality. This is one of the 8 upside-down views, which belongs to the 4 upside-down views for ordinary people. The fourth type is heretics believe in permanence, upside down, perversion, inverted, contrary to reality, to believe things as they seem to be, the impermanent to be permanent, the apparent ego to be real. This is one of the 8 upside-down views, which belongs to the 4 upside-down views for ordinary people. The fifth type is mistaking the impermanent for the permanent. Buddhist doctrine emphasizes that all is impermanent. This is one of the 4 ways of upside-down thinking that cause one to resolve in the birth and death. The sixth type is permanent self, regarding the state of profound stillness, is the ultimate spiritual self, contemplates the wonderfully bright mind pervading the 10 directions. He concludes that this state of profound stillness is the ultimate spiritual self. Then the practitioner speculates, my spiritual self, which is settled, bright, and unmoving, pervades the 10 directions. All living beings are within my mind, and there they are born, and die by themselves. Therefore, my mind is permanent, while those who undergo birth and death there are truly impermanent. Regarding that indestructible nature as his permanent intrinsic nature, this person closely examines his own mind and finds it to be subtle and mysterious, like fine motes of dust swirling in the 10 directions, unchanging in nature, and yet it can cause his body to be born and then to die. He regards that indestructible nature as his permanent intrinsic nature, and that which undergoes birth and death and flows forth from him as impermanent. The seventh type is heretics believe in purity. This is one of the 8 upside-down views, which belongs to the 4 upside-down views for ordinary people. The 8th type is upside-down thinking. 4 ways of upside-down thinking. 4 viparvaya, or 4 inverted, upside-down, or false beliefs that cause one to resolve in the birth and death. The 9th type is inverted and delusive ideas, upside down, and delusive ideas. One of the 4 inverted or upside down ideas. The illusion that the ego is real. The illusion that the ego has real existence. The 10th type is heretics believe that nirvana is not a place of bliss. Nirvana is a permanent place of bliss. However, heretics believe that everywhere, including nirvana, has no pleasure, but suffering. The 11th type is heretics believe that nirvana is not a real Buddha nature. Nirvana is a real Buddha nature. However, heretics believe that there is no such Buddha nature. The 12th type is heretics believe that nirvana is impermanence. Nirvana is permanent and eternal. However, heretics believe that everything, including nirvana, as impermanent. The 13th type is heretics believe that nirvana is not pure. Nirvana is pure. However, heretics believe that everything is impure. There are also 7 inversions: wrong views on permanence, wrong views on worldly happiness and unhappiness, wrong views on ego, wrong views on purity and impurity, wrong views on impermanence, wrong views on non-egoism, wrong views on emptiness. According to the Yogacara Sastra, there are 7 inversions: evil thoughts or wrong views on upside-down perception, false views or wrong views, or illusory or misleading views. To see things upside down, deluded, or upside-down mind, or mind following the external environments, wrong views on permanence and impermanence, wrong views on worldly happiness and unhappiness, wrong views on ego and non-ego, wrong views on purity and impurity, false views based on living beings' individual karma. There are also false views based on living beings' individual karma, false views associated with the individual karma of beings. False views associated with the individual karma of beings means individual karma refers to one's own karma, which differs from the karma of others. This is also called individually held false views. One's own karma is special and different from that of everyone else. In the Surangama Sutra, the Buddha reminded Ananda about 2 kinds of upside-down, discriminating false views. The first one is false view based on living beings' individual karma, and the other one is false view based on living beings' collective karma. What is meant by false views based on individual karma? Ananda, it is like a man in the world who has red cataracts on his eyes, so that at night he alone sees around the lamp a circular reflection composed of layers of 5 colors. What do you think is the circle of light that appears around the lamp? At night the lamp's color? Or is it the seeing's colors? Ananda, if it is the lamp's colors, why is it that someone without the disease does not see the same thing, and only the one who is diseased sees the circular reflection? If it is the seeing's colors, then the seeing has already become colored. What? Then, is the circular reflection the diseased man sees to be called? Moreover, Ananda, if the circular reflection is in itself a thing apart from the lamp, then it would be seen around the folding screen, the curtain, the table, and the mats. If it has nothing to do with the seeing, it should not be seen by the eyes. Why is it that the man with cataracts sees the circular reflections with his eyes? Therefore, you should know that, in fact, the colors come from the lamp, and the disease seeing bring about the reflection. Both the circular reflection and the faulty seeing are the result of the cataract. But that which sees the diseased film is not sick. Thus you should not say that it is the lamp or the seeing, or that it is either the lamp nor the seeing. It is like a second moon often seen when one presses on one's eye while looking up into the sky. It is neither substantial nor a reflection because it is an illusory vision caused by the pressure exerted on one's eye. Hence, a wise person should not say that the second moon is a form, or not a form, nor is it correct to say that the illusory second moon is apart from the seeing, or not apart from the seeing. It is the same with the illusion created by the diseased eyes. You cannot say it is from the lamp, or from the seeing. Even less can it be said not to be from the lamp or the seeing. False views of collecting share. There are false views of the collecting share. Commonly held false views of beings. Commonly held false views of beings means that it is shared by most other people. It is also called collective karma. An example is natural disasters and man-made calamities, in which hundreds of thousands, or even millions of people die together. That is collective karma, arising from commonly held false views. It is shared karma resulting from those kinds of false thoughts. In the Surangama Sutra, the Buddha reminded Ananda about two kinds of upside-down, discriminating false views. The first one is false view, based on living beings' individual karma, and the other one is false view, based on living beings' collective karma. What is meant by the false view of the collective share? Ananda, in Jambudvipa, besides the waters of the great seas, there is level land that forms some 3,000 continents, east and west. Throughout the entire expanse of the great continent, there are 2,300 large countries. In other, small or perhaps one or two, or perhaps 30, 40, or 50. Ananda, suppose that among them there is one small continent, where there are only 2 countries. The people of just one of the countries together experience evil conditions. On that small continent, all the people of that country see all kinds of inauspicious things. Perhaps they see 2 suns. Perhaps they see 2 moons with circles, or a dark haze, or girdle ornaments around them, or comets, shooting stars, ears on the sun or moon, embos, secondary rainbows, and various other evil signs. Only the people in that country see them. The living beings in the other country from the first do not see or hear anything unusual. Ananda, in the case of the living being's false view of individual karma, by which he sees the appearance of a circular reflection around the lamp. The appearance seems to be a state, but in the end, what is seen comes into being because of the cataracts on the eyes. The cataracts are the results of the weariness of the seeing rather than the products of form. However, the essence of seeing, which perceives the cataracts, is free from all diseases and defects. Ananda, I will now go back and forth comparing these 2 matters for you, to make both of them clear. For example, you now use your eyes to look at the mountains, the rivers, the countries, and all the living beings, and they are all brought about by the disease of your seeing, contracted since time without beginning. Seeing and the conditions of seeing seem to manifest what is before you. Originally my enlightenment is bright. The seeing and conditions arise from the cataracts. Realize that the seeing arise from the cataracts, the enlightened condition of the basically enlightened bright mind has no cataracts. That which is aware of the faulty awareness is not diseased. It is the true perception of seeing. How can you continue to speak of feeling, hearing, knowing, and seeing? Therefore, you now see me, and yourself and the world, and all the 10 kinds of living beings, because of a disease in the seeing. What is aware of the disease is not diseased. The true essential seeing by nature has no disease. Therefore, it is not called seeing. Ananda, let us compare the false views of those living beings collective share with the false views of the individual karma of one person. The individual man with the diseased eyes is the same as the people of that country. He sees circular reflections, erroneously brought about by a disease of the seeing. The beings with a collective share see inauspicious things in the midst of their karma of identical views arise pestilence and evils. Both are produced from a beginningless falsity in the seeing. It is the same in the 3,000 continents of Jambudvipa, throughout the 4 great seas, and in the Saha world, and throughout the 10 directions. All countries that have outflows, and all living beings are the enlightened, bright wonderful mind without outflows, because of the false, diseased conditions that are seen, heard, felt, and known. They mix and unite in false birth, mix and unite in false death. If you can leave far behind all conditions which mix and unite and those which do not mix and unite, then you can also extinguish and cast out the causes of birth and death, and obtain perfect bodhi, the nature which is neither produced nor extinguished. It is the pure, clear, basic mind, the everlasting fundamental enlightenment. According to the Surangama Sutra, Book 7, the Buddha reminded Ananda about the 2 conditions for being upside down as follows. Ananda, you now wish to cultivate true samadhi and arrive directly at the thus come 1-foot parinirvana. First, you should recognize the 2 upside down causes of living beings and the world. If this upside down state is not produced, then there is the thus come one's true samadhi. Upside down states of living beings. What is meant by the upside down state of living beings? The Buddha reminded Ananda, the reason that the nature of the mind is bright is that the nature itself is the perfection of brightness. By adding brightness, another nature arises, and from that false nature, views are produced, so that from absolute nothingness comes ultimate existence. All that exists comes from this. Every cause in fact has no cause. Subjective reliance on objective appearances is basically groundless. Thus, upon what is fundamentally unreliable, one set up the world and living beings. Confusion about one's basic, perfect understanding results in the arising of falseness. The nature of falseness is devoid of substance. It is not something which can be relied upon. One may wish to return to the truth, but that wish for truth is already a falseness. The real nature of true suchness is not a truth that one can seek to return to. By doing so one misses the mark. What basically is not produced, what basically does not dwell, what basically is not the mind, and what basically are not dharmas, arise through interaction. As they arise more and more strongly, they form the propensity to create karma. Similar karma sets up a mutual stimulus. Because of the karma thus generated, there is mutual production and mutual extinction. That is the reason for the upside-down state of living beings. Ananda, upside-down states of the world. What is meant by the upside-down state of the world? All that exists comes from this. The world is set up because of the false arising of sections and shares. Every cause in fact has no cause. Everything that is dependent has nothing on which it is dependent, and so it shifts and slides and is unreliable. Because of this, the world of the 3 periods of time and 4 directions comes into being. Their union and interaction bring about changes, which result in the 12 categories of living beings. That is why, in this world, movement brings about sounds. Sounds bring about forms. Forms bring about smells. Smells bring about contact. Contact brings about tastes. And tastes bring about awareness of dharmas. The random false thinking, resulting from these 6 creates karma. And this continuous revolving becomes the cause of 12 different categories. And so, in the world, sounds, smells, tastes, contact, and the like, are each transformed throughout the 12 categories to make one complete cycle. The appearance of being upside down is based on this continuous process. Therefore, In the world, there are those born from eggs, those born from womb, those born from moisture, those born by transformation, those with form, those without form, those with thought, those without thought, those not totally endowed with form, those not totally lacking form, those not totally endowed with thought, and those not totally lacking thought. Ananda, each of these categories of beings is replete with all 12 kinds of upside-down states. Just as pressing on one's eye produces a variety of flower-like images, with the inversion of wonderful perfection, the truly pure, bright mind becomes glutted with false and random thoughts. There are also 3 subversions, or subverters, which make beings to apprehend objects that are impermanent, painful, not self, and foul, as permanent, pleasant, self, and beautiful, evil thoughts, false views, and a deluded mind. Besides, there are 4 upside-down views for ordinary people. First, considering what is really impermanent to be permanent. Second, considering what is really suffering to be joy. Third, considering what is not a self to be a self. Fourth, considering what is impure to be pure. In the Surangama Sutra, Book 9, in the part of the 10 states of the formation skandha, the Buddha reminded Ananda about the 4 upside-down theories as follows. Ananda! Further, in his practice of samadhi, the good person's mind is firm, unmoving, and proper, and can no longer be disturbed by demons. He can thoroughly investigate the origin of all categories of beings, and contemplate the source of the subtle, fleeting, and constant fluctuation. But if he begins to speculate about self and others, he could fall into error with theories of partial impermanence and partial permanence based on 4 distorted views. First, as this person contemplates the wonderfully bright mind pervading the 10 directions, he concludes that this state of profound stillness is the ultimate spiritual self. Then he speculates, my spiritual self, which is settled, bright, and unmoving, pervades the 10 directions. All living beings are within my mind, and there they are born and die by themselves. Therefore, my mind is permanent, while those who undergo birth and death there are truly impermanent. Second, instead of contemplating his own mind, this person contemplates in the 10 directions worlds as many as the Ganges sands. He regards as ultimately impermanent those worlds that are in eons of decay, and as ultimately permanent those that are not in eons of decay. Third, this person closely examines his own mind and finds it to be subtle and mysterious, like fine motes of dust swirling in the 10 directions, unchanging in nature, and yet it can cause his body to be born and then to die. He regards that indestructible nature as his permanent intrinsic nature, and that which undergoes birth and death and flows forth from him as impermanent. Fourth, knowing that the skandha of thinking has ended, and seeing the flowing of the skandha of formations, this person speculates that the continuous flow of the skandha of formations is permanent, and that the skandhas of form, feeling, and thinking which have already ended are impermanent. Because of these speculations of impermanence and permanence, he will fall into externalism and become confused about the Bodhi nature. Furthermore, there are 4 inversions, the 4 vipravaya, or 4 inverted, upside down, or false beliefs. 4 ways of upside down thinking that cause one to resolve in the birth and death. First, mistaking the impermanent for the permanent. Buddhist doctrine emphasizes that all is impermanent, only nirvana is permanent. We are deceived by the momentary exterior appearance of things. They do not appear to be changing. They appear to our delusion-dulled sense as static. We do not perceive processes in dynamic change but only as we think, entities which go on existing. Similarity, due to a line of change in a given direction, is often mistaken for sameness. If this misapprehension is firmly rooted in our mind, all sorts of attachments and cravings for things and people, including attachment to oneself, will be formed, and these bring them much sorrow. For to regard things and people in this way is to regard them as through a distorting glass. It is not seeing them correctly. It is seeing them invertedly as though permanent. Second, mistaking what is not bliss for bliss. Buddhist doctrine emphasizes that all is suffering. Only nirvana is joy. The unsatisfactory invertedly appears to be pleasant. Thus people fritter away much of their precious lives on this or that pleasure, and as they never actually get the satisfaction they crave for, so they are driven on from one thing to another. Pleasures may produce temporary feelings of ease, of worldly happiness, but they are always linked to succeeding disappointment, regret, longing for some other emotion, indicating an absence of real satisfaction. Those who actually rejoice in greed, aversion, or delusion are, of course, invertedly trying to enjoy what is not enjoyable. Dukkha is linked to any mental state into which the above three roots enter. Nothing really satisfactory can be expected where they operate, as they certainly do in turning round what is by nature unsatisfactory and making it appear the opposite. Third, mistaking what is not self for self. Buddhist doctrine emphasizes that all is non-self, or without a soul. Sentient beings, including human beings, come into being under the law of conditioning by the union of 5 aggregates or skandhas: material form, feeling, perception, mental formation or dispositions, and consciousness. When these aggregates are combined together, they sustain life. If they disintegrate, the body will die. This the Buddha called impersonal. Fourth, mistaking what is impure. For pure all is impure. Only nirvana is pure, all is impure. Only nirvana is pure. The sinful body, that of ordinary people, caused by lust, hatred, and ignorance. The chaotic, evil, calculating, vicious mind of sentient beings. Buddhist practitioners should always remember that inversion is one of the main hindrances in our cultivation. Once we, Buddhist practitioners, can get rid of inversions, also means that we have already pushed away one of the great obstacles on our own path of cultivation. Practicing meditation will help us to possess a genuine wisdom, which is necessary for us to get rid of inversions. In Buddhism, those whose thoughts are perverted by perverted views have no future in their cultivation of the way. Even though they are still alive, they can be considered as dead, for they have always gone against their own conscience and integrity.